Once upon a time, two boys grew up playing hockey in the village of Terrace, British Columbia. One of them went on to play in the National Hockey League. The other became a comedian. Now, one flies planes and coaches youth hockey. The other is still a comedian and owns news skates. This is their podcast, Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian.
Well, hello, Jeff Sharples. It's been a couple weeks since we talked. We took a week off. People lost their minds. They're like, where's the orange slices? We need our orange slices. And we said, we are on our all-star break. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, we kind of come back. We're a little refreshed and rejuvenated, but busy, right? So we just couldn't kind of pull it off. And we're trying to get guests in there because we know everybody doesn't want to listen to us talk for an hour anymore. So just couldn't kind of get the round peg in the square hole, but we figured it out this week and we're back.
We're back. Are you working this week or what are you up to?
Yeah, I'm working. Well, I'm on call, so I'm waiting patiently.
With bated breath, he's waiting to fly a plane.
I know. I'm waiting to get back down to LA.
Just trying to get. I'm trying to get down to relax.
I got to get back down. Well, I don't know if we talked there since you were at Hermosa. I don't know if that was in one of the last ones, but we had a great time at Hermosa. Lord Bag filled the place and basically one-man show. You didn't have 7 or 8 comedians in front of you. Actually,
I'm disappointed.
Took it down. So was I.
I know you don't come to see me, so I don't come to see. I was just like, I want to relax a little bit, and they're like, no, you're going just a couple minutes before you, and then you're gonna go. I'm like, okay. So,
yeah, normally we walk in and you can walk around for like 45 minutes, and that didn't happen last week. We all got there, and within 10 to 15 minutes, you were on stage. So, but the place was rocking and rolling. It's such a great place, and Richard and everyone at Comedy and Magic, they not only take such good care of you, they take such good care of us. Me and Allison, Nathan, and Cab, and that was awesome. So
it's a good time. And we'll be back there. It looks like end of March, we'll be back there. This weekend, I was in Bakersfield, home of the Condors. That's what everybody, as soon as people, we have a hockey team. I'm like, I know you do, the Condors. He knows about us. It's crazy. So I think they're Edmonton's farm team, are they not?
Yeah, Bakersfield, and then the Stockton was Calgary's. Calgary, the Wranglers are back up in Calgary. Yeah. So they called it our good friend Michael DeLay, actually, and we have a tie into this today because Michael DeLay, who was with the Las Vegas Thunder, Michael and Meredith, who were unbelievable when we came with the Thunder in '93. He's in Austin now. And his tie into today's show, we'll let out of the bag in a minute, but he's with the Del Stars organization with the Austin Stars, and he called the Western Division, like with Bakersfield, and you got Henderson in there now, and San Diego and Ontario, and now Coachella as well. The Luke Robitaille, the Robitaille division, so named after Luke. So give Luke credit, and another reason to pull for the guys in LA because they got their farm teams out west closer to where their actual NHL teams are.
Stockton is such a bad place. They one person had to stay on the truck when they were loading gear because people would steal stuff off it. They couldn't even get all their gear on without people being stealing skates to sell someplace else. It was crazy. Yeah, tough town, Stockton. I love that league. I love everything being that close because it used to be on the East Coast. None of that hockey used to really be out here.
Well, I'll give you a story. I got called up. I was traded from Detroit out to Edmonton, and they sent me down. I'd been out for about 8 weeks with a separated shoulder, and I started coming back and playing. And they wanted to bring me up to Edmonton because I think they were playing the Russian national team when the Red Army and those guys used to come through. But they were also getting ready to do a road trip, and they had some injuries. So I got up at like 3 a.m. in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. Sydney, which the best people in the world out there, they're wonderful. And I started on Air Canada -8 to Halifax from Sydney, then, bounced through Toronto or Montreal, and Edmonton was in Calgary. Well, I got to Calgary just before, I don't even know what time it was, maybe just before game time. And they were thinking about playing me, but the problem was is when I went to bring my my skates on the airplane, they wouldn't let me bring them on. So they made me check my skates. So,
and of course they didn't get through, right? Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so they made me check my skates, so I couldn't even get there the same day. And so I'm trying to move. There we go. And so regardless, these guys being closer now is so much better, not only for the player because they feel like they're more part of the organization. It's way better for the organization.
For the business, yeah.
These guys can just go in a lot of cases. Like I'll give you an example, just San Jose. San Jose practices on one side of their rink, and the Barracuda practice on the other. So the GM is connected. His office is connected to both rinks. He just walks out, watches one. Normally the NHL team will practice at say 10, 10:30, and the AHL team will practice at 11, 11:30. And the same thing for places like Henderson and a lot of these other places. They're a lot easier to get to. Our friends with the Kings do the same thing, right?
It's the same as owning a franchise. If you have one in Vancouver and you have one in Prince George, the one in Prince George is not being run the same way as your one in Vancouver that you're part of. No matter what, people don't do things the same way as you do it. You have more control over something when it's closer to you.
Well, and I don't know how
often, businessman.
That is amazing. Now we should just close the show after that. But I don't know, like, how often these kids go and watch these games, the American League guys, because they're busy too, right? They got their own lives. But if you like can get down and watch your NHL team play, or at a minimum watch them practice, that's got to give you a lot more insight into what it's going to take for
they're looking for
the lineup.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's good business. It's good business. And I don't, I think you got to take an L someplace. You're probably going to take a little bit of an L on the finances of what that team's making. That's probably, but if you can get into business with somebody in that area and build that team, you might be able to make it into a W. It's not going to be a huge W, but you probably keep it into the black out of the red.
Well, and the other thing is not everybody can afford to go to an NHL hockey game, but most people can afford to go to an AHL hockey game or minor league game. And, the hope is that you're developing these guys to be a part of your organization and, of course, your community long term. So there's a lot of benefits with having them close, especially in these big cities. And in some cities, like look at Winnipeg and Calgary in Canada, you've got the American League team, the NHL team, and you've got junior teams. And somehow the city's able to support it. So,
well, if you've got 3 million people living in a town and only 12,000 can go to a game, do the math, but you got to go to the different. You can't go. Not everybody can go to the NHL game.
No, for sure.
I watched a little bit of the All-Star game. Don't really get it. It's just kind of a float. I think they should just do the skills and just move on from the game.
Well, I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to,
to sell the game.
I've cracked the code. I've got it figured out. But I think what, the goal is here is to try and keep, kind of spreading their wings, pushing out their demographic. And obviously they want to get the young people. So they're trying to do stuff that appeals to the young people. And a lot of the older crowd, I mean, they're already watching. They need to appeal to the young group as well. So some of the stuff they're going to try, they're going to fall flat in their face. But what works is fastest skater. I think the hardest shot and the accuracy where they're shooting the four corners of the net. I think those are winners. I think people love watching that. And then the game, the 3-on-3, I watched that and I thought it was, the first game Pacific and Central wasn't great, but then after that, those games got going and it's not an all-day event. But they were, it's not the NHL. It's just searching for this. Look at the NFL, all kinds of complaints about, what their skills and all their competitions look like playing flag football. But
that's what people get injured celebrating sometimes,
Yeah.
We've seen it happen. So why would you want to ruin somebody's career for something they're not really being paid for, something that, it can't be the exact same emotions and feel as a regular game. It's just got to be, I don't know, maybe you put I don't know, do you add an alumni like something? There's got to be something that says this isn't a game.
Well, maybe a charitable side to it, and there might already be more than we know, but a charitable side to it, where they do something, the money's raised, and it's throughout the local community there, and or the other 31 cities in the NHL, or the guys, some of the players' hometowns, or whatever they want to do. But I think that the NHL, they have to build it so there's a little bit of downtime in there for the players too. I mean, these are the best players on their teams to that point in the year, so they're all going to have played a lot of hockey, or the majority of them will have. So you have to build in some kind of break. Well, when you're in Fort Lauderdale, Miami area, the beach, and it's 85 degrees, just putting on flip-flops and shorts is kind of, and going down to get your coffee in the lobby, that's a pretty good start, and having the beach across the street. But next year it's in Toronto, so they're going to need to find a way to kind of maximize the, take away the mental strain that these guys are under for the whole year, and just kind of, be able to take their mind away and their brain out of their head for the weekend. Just go and do what they do best when it's their turn, when their number's called.
Nice. I like it. I'm sorry. I'm getting ready. I'm trying to get I'm listening to you, but I understand.
No, you're not.
I am listening to you and I understand, but really everybody's on pins and needles and they're wondering when we're going to talk about it. Vancouver trades Bo Horvat, my language, to the Islanders. Let's take it back to real. Good for him. I love that fact that he had the general manager that signs him right away says it was too much and for too long.
I love that too. That's Lou, though.
Yeah, it's like they still need another piece, but the Islanders could be dangerous.
Well, just had dinner with our good friend Dougie Huda the other night, old D partner, and he was in town for the All-Star break. So I'm not name dropping. I've known him since I've been 16 years, 17 years old. So, but Hoods, said coming on the break, it's really make or break for them, because they got to get going. They have to string a bunch of wins together because everybody around them is winning. And I'll give you an example. Last night, they ended up squeaking one out of Philly, 2-1, played really well. So then I started turning between the other games. Well, then New York and Calgary was amazing. Okay, so I caught the end of it, just one of the best games I've seen all year. Back and forth. Calgary's up 4-3 late, and then New York finds a way to get it done in overtime. Then New Jersey takes Vancouver out in overtime. So here are those 2 points were so crucial for the Islanders, just trying to stay in the mix. They play Vancouver, I think Thursday, and then they got Pittsburgh a couple times, Montreal. So Seattle. They play Seattle, Vancouver, and they got to string together, like, out of these next five games, they got to get wins in 4 of them, or at least points in 4 of them. That would be 3 wins and maybe a tie or an overtime loss in there. But they got to find a way. And with Bo Horvat, it's hard to fathom when you see a superstar in your market and in the league get traded, but it happened. And I think Horvat's going to be a really good person, and a really good kind of player that the Islanders are going to be able to rely on for a long time.
I do believe that too. I do. I think it's pretty cool. I was disappointed to see him leave Vancouver, but you're excited to see him get another chance. I do. A couple of weeks ago, somebody we know gave me an insight that Rutherford has asked out of Vancouver. Probably about 3 weeks ago. And this weekend, it's become more than a rumor. I thought our friend was lying. And then this weekend, it's become very hot. I don't know how much longer Vancouver can go through this before nobody wants to go there.
Well, the word, you see it with a lot of teams, but the word dysfunctional definitely comes into mind, because, if you look at it, even in Vegas here, we've had, there's been a lot of drama around the team in the last couple of years. There isn't much drama around the team this year, but the team has won, right? I mean, even last year they missed the playoffs by a point or two, and it was a really rough season for them. Lots of injuries, lots of stuff going on. Vancouver isn't making the playoffs, and they're not close to making it, and you have all this going on. And so it's such a great city, and it's we grew up.
They deserve better. They deserve better. And you know what the problem is? You know what it looks like? They're gonna put themselves just out of contention for Bedard, and that's such a Vancouver style. Edmonton gets 14 number 1 draft picks in 13 years, and we get nothing. And I say we because I believe I'm part of the team. We can fly. Anyways, it's time for our guest. Are you ready for our guest?
Yeah, let's do it.
Our guest is brought to you by Superdeker, superdeker.com. Go there, find all your needs for learning how to stick handle. Become the next Connor Bedard. Don't be Ian, be Jeff. Go to superdeker.com and learn how to stick handle. Our guest today he's been a head coach for a couple teams, right, Jeff?
Yeah, just a couple. Yeah.
Let's go to him. Our guest today is head coach of the Dallas Stars. He doesn't want to be here because he just got back from the All-Star game, and this is bringing him down back to reality. Please welcome Pete Deboer. Hi, Pete.
Hey, Ian. How you doing, guys?
Oh, good. How was Florida and the old All-Star game?
You know what? It's always great. It's one of those things where you kind of have a vacation plan. You're looking forward to get away for 7-8 days. And then you get named to the All-Star game and you quietly bitch and moan a little bit. And then you get there and you realize how awesome it is to be around the best players on the planet. The NHL does a great job. Everything's done first class. So, it was my third one, exceptional time. The only problem is I haven't won yet. There's some big cash on the line in these things, and the coaches actually get a share, and I've been in 3 of them and haven't won one yet. Yeah.
That's it's interesting to me when I look at the coaches on the bench. I don't know if you're scouting or actually doing something.
Well, you got to be real careful, right? You don't want to start lambasting guys on other teams because the money's more important to you than it is to them.
That's odd. What do you guys do during the skills competition? Do you guys just sit and get hammered and watch people shoot?
Yeah, pretty much non-participant. I actually went up in the crowd and sat with my wife and had a few drinks. Had some friends in town for it. Funny, but it was kind of full circle for me. I started in the NHL in Florida 15 years ago. I said when they drove me to the edge of town and dropped me off 3 years later, when they fired me, I didn't think they'd ever think I'd be back coaching an all-star game in Florida 15 years later, but here I was. And so it was nice to kind of come full circle and show up back there again.
Before I let Jeff ask a question, I'm going to ask after that, when you go back to that situation, are you kind of on the inside? Do you have fingers up? Are you kind of, do you have a little bit of that in you?
You know, when someone asked me that, I think you have that with your most recent firing, but when you go back 4 or 5, it's you're numb to that. You moved on. You know, really, there's no players left from when I was there or management. Everybody's been fired and cleaned out of there. So, but you know, definitely on your most recent one, we just recently went to Vegas and won a big game, and there was a lot of that type of emotion.
Good. We'll get to that one, Pete, because I was at that game, and I want to ask you a little bit about the All-Star, and I definitely want to ask you about the Vegas game. Just basically a general question about that one. But at the All-Star game, okay, here you are with all these top players. You got Ovi there, you got Sid there, and I know you know all these guys. You got McKinnon, these guys, and you're coaching guys in your division, but it must be great to catch up with the other coaches and just see what's going on with them. But it must be kind of nice to kind of dig into some of these players a little bit and kind of see how they tick. And I mean, it must be a really a nice experience because you're getting noticed for your team playing so well as being picked as one of the coaches. But it must be pretty cool to dig into some of these guys and see what makes them tick. And I'm sure it's a learning experience for you as well.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what, Jeff, it's funny, but you never get to spend time with Sidney Crosby other than when you're at an event like that. And I actually had Sydney on a world junior team. We won a gold medal in 2005. He was a 16-year-old kid. So I had him. I've had Nathan McKinnon on world championship team. So it's a one opportunity, because you're not coaching these guys. They're on other teams that, you might see them after a game walking down the hall. They might give you a wink when they're on the ice skating by, but you don't get a chance to actually catch up with them. So it was nice. And, because of my Hockey Canada experiences, I have had a lot of those guys on different teams. And because I've been fired from 5 teams, I've coached a lot of guys on different teams. So there's a lot of familiarity.
Nice. Do you still love the game?
I love the game. It's too hard. It's too stressful. It's too tough on your family for you to do this job and not love it.
Right.
If you didn't love it, it wouldn't be worth it.
Do you ever find yourself just in a hockey arena that has nothing to do with the NHL?
Watching my kids play all the time, because they've all come up through, well, my 2 boys have come up through minor hockey and they're both playing college hockey now. So,
save money there. Did they get?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the States, it's big money compared to Canada, where we're from. If you're asking me, do I go to the local corner rink and watch a game because I need a hockey fix on an off night? No, I don't do that. But, I definitely watch a lot of other hockey other than NHL.
I need to smell an arena every once in a while. I just need to go in and smell an arena, and then I can just walk right out. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm back to being a kid, right? So
yeah, I hear that. I hear that.
Hey, Pete, I wanted to go back a little bit and talk about you coming up and growing up. One person that a friend of ours that said, you got to ask Pete about Sonny today, your junior A coach. So you can only imagine who that person is. But
I know.
And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, when you played for Sonny, I think Paul Maurice was, you guys were teammates back then. Maybe just explain, like, kind of, you talked a little bit earlier on with us about, getting, signing your NHL deal and that, but how did it kind of start? Where did you, where'd you grow up playing minor hockey? And obviously Sonny was a junior A coach of yours, but maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and big shout out to Randy Morton, who I know you got that name from, because we have a mutual acquaintance there. I grew up in a small town in Ontario, about 10,000 people, a farming community called Dunnville, Ontario. Had no aspirations to be an NHL coach, wanted to be an NHL player, wasn't the best player in my town even. That wasn't really on my radar, but I got drafted to junior in Windsor Spitfires. And just goes to show you, I tell my kids how, kind of life's path takes you places and you don't really know what's going to happen. You just kind of make the most of it. I showed up in Windsor, didn't know anyone, made the team as a late round pick. Sonny was one of our coaches. Our head coach at that time was a guy named Tom Webster, who coached multiple years in LA Kings, New York Rangers, played, was really influential on me as a junior player. And I just happened to be in a spot where on that team, Paul Maurice was our captain. Tom Webster was our coach. Jim Rutherford was our general manager. And, when people say, you are what your environment is, I think that was the case with Pete Deboer. He got dropped into a place around all these exceptional people. And, I'd like to think my part in that was I just made the most of it. I learned from them. I followed their direction. I tried to follow their path. And Jimmy gave me my first head coaching and assistant coaching job. It was for Paul Maurice, who Jimmy had already hired. Tom Webster was the one who basically sat me down and said, listen, Pete, you're not good enough to play in the NHL. You're a good minor leaguer, but you should consider coaching. And that kind of opened my eyes to that path. So, I'm the product of being fortunate enough to be dropped into a place like that among those type of people, and made the most of it.
That's awesome. I love it. Did you when they tell you you should get into coaching, how have you had that talk with anybody?
I have actually. I have. Yeah.
And you're not trying to be mean. You're just trying to help a
No.
guy get to a level outside of what he's doing. What do you see in somebody's eyes when you tell them that?
Well, this was different. I mean, I was still a young player. I was 23 years old. So, you know, that's someone taking a pin and popping your balloon, you know, right in your face, which I'm glad Tommy did. I mean, you know, he said, listen, you're a good minor league player. You can do this till you're 30 if you want. But, you know, you've got to have a reality check here. And if you don't want to be riding buses at 30, you know, this is a path that I think you have a chance at. You know, my conversations with the guys that I've had those conversations with have been guys at the end of their career or that have had serious injuries and their careers are in jeopardy. And I can see that they're looking for what's next. So, you know, a little different from my situation. I haven't actually grabbed a young player with all kinds of dreams and shattered them in front of them.
Well, let's be honest. Your balloon was popped, but holy crap, what another balloon that picked up right afterwards.
Yeah, for sure.
No?
For sure.
It's insane how that works. I've been told before, never concentrate on too much on what you're doing because you don't know where the footprint's going.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of those things there. That's really, it's tough though. It's tough. Jeff, sorry, I'm having a breakdown. Go ahead.
I actually really like that question because it leads me to another one that I wasn't going to ask, but a follow-up, Pete, is you're so invested in your career and you've come up, in the minors, you know how that is. You've coached these high-end kids for Team Canada. You've been to the finals. You've been in 5 different cities. You've been all over. You have all this experience. But one thing that Ian brings up is a great question, and you said it, is what's next? And you know, I haven't seen Kenny Holland in years since he came through town. I always go down and watch Edmonton when they come because, you know, they got the 2 superstars and they're a lot of fun to watch. But Kenny said to me years ago, we were out golfing, and the concern for you've had, what they do after is a huge concern. So in one regard, these guys were really looking out for you. Like, I know Jimmy's, you know, it's been a bit bumpy in Vancouver, but the guy that made a huge difference on you, and you've been in the league for 15 years now. Paul Maurice, to me, is just an incredible person to talk to, but never mind what he does for coaching. And Tom Webster, what he did speaks for itself too. Everybody has that. So I guess the question is while you're trying to win games and Stanley Cups, how do you help some of these guys? And because you're looking out for them during the season, what kind of conversations do you have with them to make sure they're okay when they're done or when you think they're getting near the end of their career?
Apparently we're both having a breakdown.
Hey, I was just wondering if you could help me out, Pete.
You need some guidance?
Yeah, I was like, I don't remember having those kind of guys in my corner. I mean, my mom and dad were fantastic, and of course, Ian. But I was just kind of curious, if you worry about what guys are doing. I know they make a lot of money, but do you worry about how they're doing after they leave the game? And if you can maybe help steer them or just even be a shoulder for them to lean on?
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. And you know what, I coached junior hockey for 15 years. And I tell people that the most rewarding part of that for me wasn't the handful of guys that went on to play in the NHL. It was the guys who didn't play and became cops or doctors or lawyers or school teachers and now have families that still reach out and touch because it's such an impactful time of their life. So, you know, that 16 to 20 year age group, I felt that, I really had a bigger impact than I do at the NHL level that way. At the NHL level, it's, as you know, it's big business. And unlike when you played, there's great resources available for these guys now. I just sat at the NHL All-Star game with an old goalie that played junior for me, Rob Zepp, who's working with the NHL Players Association in charge of exactly what you're talking about. He gave me a booklet of all the things they're doing for players now when they retire, choosing a next career path, options for online schooling, direction, counseling. I mean, there's a huge support network now around today's NHL player that was non-existent, as you know, when you were coming out.
Yeah, it's good to see the support there, because there wasn't a lot, but it's really a remarkable story that you had those guys around you, and still, I'm sure to this day you do, and it makes a big difference. And you're not just a young kid anymore. I mean, you're a young man still, but these guys are still around to kind of help cushion the blow of some of the things that probably happen, because it's as they like to say, coaching's a hard knock life, right? It's tough.
It is tough, but there's so many great people in the game, and that's the one thing that you appreciate. That there's so many great people in the game. Every time I've been fired, my phone blows up with text messages of people support. Do you want to talk? Do you want to get away? Do you want to go golfing? You'll land on your feet. That's the fraternity of what we do, and it's across the board: management, coaches, players. That's the great part of our job, is there's so many great people.
What would you say to somebody, because an NHL coach or any professional coach is hired to be fired? What would you say to people that have dealt with that? Like, how did you deal with it? Did you just have to have those people around you? Like, because I don't know how you guys do it. Like it's the best day. It's like buying a boat, right?
Yeah.
It's fantastic, but it's going to end up like.
I thought you were going to say an ex-wife. You know what? It's funny, but we sign up for it. We know it's coming. The toughest part is on your families. That's the toughest part. That's what I found. It was never tough on me. It's funny, when you're getting fired, I tell people this all the time, what it's like. It's like you're in a cone of silence. Like, all of a sudden you're walking down the hall and people are taking a long way to avoid you. There's no eye contact. No one's talking to you. All of a sudden it's like a vacuum of everything gets quiet around you. So what you can feel it coming, and that's pretty typical almost every time it's happened to me. The people that it's tough on is your families and the people that are close to you, because they feel it. They read the social media. They take the hate personally, and they take it hard, especially your kids. So I always found it was actually easiest on me. It was toughest on the people around me.
Mm-hmm. What do you do with all that free swag you got?
You know what, my dad has 5 sets of golf shirts, track suits, and he's got to change it out every year. He has no allegiance to anybody, though. He'll roll down the street with any logo on. It doesn't matter.
That's great. I seen somebody. There was a picture online yesterday of a lady wearing a Canadian shirt with a Boston Bruins hat.
Hey, Pete, wanted to kind of, I should probably ask Ian if I can even go this far into the interview yet, but I want to ask you about your GM in Dallas, Jimmy Nell, an old teammate of mine, and I want to talk a little bit about your team too. But there's a lot of people that influence you. And when I was a young guy coming in to the league and to the Detroit Red Wing organization, Jimmy Nell was one of the best people that I'd ever come across, an easy guy to pull for. Tell me about your relationship with him. And of course, when you became a free agent last summer and you obviously had options on the table, what kind of attracted you to Dallas, and how is it to work with Jimmy?
Yeah, well, I've known Jimmy for a long time. Actually, an old teammate of yours, Adam Graves, and I played in Windsor together. Yeah. And I actually met Jimmy at Adam's wedding, 100 years ago. They were playing together. And then Jimmy and I's paths would cross occasionally when he was scouting for Detroit. I was running a junior team in Kitchener and Plymouth, and Jim would come in scouting. So we'd cross paths, but didn't spend a lot of time together, never had a real relationship. But I always admired his work ethic, his character. There's very few people that work for or play for 50 years in the league like Jimmy has, that there's not a person that has a bad word to say about them, not one. And I think that's Jim Nill. And so I always had in the back of my mind, if I ever get a chance to work for a guy like that, I would love to. And you know what? It's been exactly as advertised. He's been supportive. He's been patient. He's been communicative. And you assume that that's the same everywhere, and it's not. So you don't take that for granted after you've been in 5 places. So I'm glad. If this is my last stop on this great ride I've been on, then I'm glad it's working for a guy like that, because it's been exceptional.
Hey, so I guess just for general, like, people interest, how often are you talking to Jimmy? Do you guys are like, or any GMs, but we'll just use Jim as the example here. In Dallas, you guys are having a great year. Everything seems to be going good. So that's easy, right? When things are going good, but NHL season's a long season and doesn't always go that way. Do you guys kind of have set up times where you'll meet during the week, or like today you have an off day, tomorrow you have a huge game against Minnesota, and then you got a big homestand with Tampa and Boston coming in? Like, these are measuring stick games in the league, whether people want to say it or not. These are huge teams, Central Division opponent, and then 2 of the big dogs out in the East. Would you guys have anything, like, you're obviously working with your coaches, but what kind of interaction will you have on a daily basis or weekly basis with Jim or your general manager?
Yeah, I would interact with Jim every day, either in person. A lot of times in person. We'll be at the practice rink. He'll always pop in before and or after practice. On game days, definitely right after the game. A lot of times it's just about the daily update: who's available, who isn't, who they might call up, who injury reports, things like that. But that relationship is critical for what we do, and it's daily, and it's very open and honest. And Jim's an easy guy to talk to, but you're absolutely right. The rubber hits the road, so to speak, when things get tough. That's when you see everybody's true colors. And we have had some tough moments, and Jim's as steady a guy as they come. And while we haven't had many, you talk to coaches that worked for him in the past, and it's always consistent that Jim is always that firm but fair and calm hand that helps steer you through that adversity that is just eventually going to come here.
Interesting. You went to law school. Did you pass the bar? Did you take the bar? So
that's a great question. I went to law school. I did a joint degree, Canada and US. So in Windsor at the time, a border city, I could go to law school in Windsor, which I got into. And at the same time I was doing my Canadian law degree, I could do a University of Detroit Mercy law degree. Mm-hmm. And by taking a few extra classes in the summer, at the end of 4 years, have an American and a Canadian degree. So I did that.
Impressive.
In the States, you can immediately go and write the bar if you want to practice in the United States. In Canada, you have to do a year of articling before which is basically an apprentice work for a year before you write the bar. So I decided that I was going to stay in Canada, got a job at an articling firm, at a law firm, to do my articling year, and was planning on writing the bar in Ontario. And the summer I was going to start, Paul Maurice, who was my head coach at the time, I was his assistant. Just how fate works. Jim Rutherford and Pete Carmanis bought the Hartford Whalers. They brought Paul Maurice to Hartford to coach with the Hartford Whalers as an assistant coach, and the head coach GM job of the junior team became available the same summer I was going to head down the law path. So I had to make a decision. And it's funny, but the law job paid more than the hockey job. I remember telling my mother that I was going to, put off the law gig and do this hockey thing. she was a Ukrainian immigrant who grew up on a farm in northern Manitoba, but didn't understand why I'd pay for 4 years of law school and then go coach hockey. I don't think she still understands, except when she shows up at my cottage and goes for a ride on the boat and realizes that. But yeah, just incredible how crossroads, kind of come into your life and the paths you choose.
Well, my question was, do you want to go into being a general manager after coaching?
God, no, I'm done.
Okay.
Ian, I'm you know what? Other people have asked me that. I think at the time I went to law school, I think I was considering coaching and management. I fell in love with the action of coaching, of being on the bench and being in the middle of the game. My next chapter is going to involve a boat, a cigar, some travel, and some time with my wife that I've neglected for a long time.
That's awesome.
Pete, I kind of thinking about it.
Recognizing.
I laugh because you're kind of like a unicorn, a junior hockey player who was a lawyer, like a smart junior hockey player. Had some schooling. Like back in the day, we all came up and we played junior, but it's kind of good to see that and now that schooling's available for kids in the junior, but that's pretty
good. Back then, if you opened a book on a junior bus, you'd take a lot of abuse, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What are you doing? You're reading?
Yeah, they didn't want nothing to do with that. I remember Neil Smith coming up to me. I got called up from Portland. Neil Smith was an assistant GM in Detroit, and I was taking flying lessons. We lived up in northern British Columbia. It took us forever to get anywhere. My dad bought a small plane, and we'd go down the Okanagan Valley and see our family. And he asked me, "What's wrong with you? You trying to become one of the Wright brothers? Like, do not deviate." Whatever
how dare you think about a second career?
Yeah, or even something you might like to do away from the game.
It's true.
Yeah.
True.
My goodness. Hey, I want to ask you about. I know we don't want to keep you forever, but I was at the game and watched obviously your career in Florida, New Jersey, San Jose, Vegas, front row seat for you here, and now Dallas, but. I watch a lot of games down at T-Mobile. As you know, you've coached a lot. It's an electric building. But what you guys did here a couple of weeks ago when the Stars came in and won 4-0 was not only just take the air out of the building, but you basically turned it into a home game for yourself. You guys were just so relentless. Everyone talks about Carolina, and the way Rod has them playing relentless on pucks. I guess Boston's that way too. But you guys are that way when you're going. That game, the Vegas game where you guys were 4-0, obviously there's a little bit more juice for you, but is that kind of what you've seen for the majority of the year from your team? Because I just thought there was no room in the neutral zone. They dumped the puck in, your D went back. The goalie didn't play it. Ottinger was unbelievable. It seemed like you guys, every facet, what you were hitting on, is that kind of how you've seen most of the year go? Have you had a lot of games like that, or is that one of your better games?
Oh, definitely one of our better games. I think that would be one of our blueprint games for how we want to play. I can tell you, I think, our record, probably speaks to the fact that we play like that more than we don't, which is great for me to see. But that was a special night. I think the guys, hockey players, they know the importance of the night. There's money on the board, and they're a smart group, and they know the significance of me and Steve Spott going back for the first time to Vegas. And I thought those guys responded with an A+ effort. They were absolutely outstanding. And funny story, it got in the media after, but we have a player of the game when we win a big game and they have to shotgun a beer. And I haven't shotgunned a beer in 30 years. The old shotgun where they take a screw and put a hole in the bottom and you crack it open and it goes down in one gulp. It's probably been 30 years at a bush party somewhere in Ontario that I don't even remember. But so we win the game. they call Steve Spot and I to the center of the room, and Jamie Benn gets 2 beers, and we've got to shotgun these beers. And we ended up throwing it back. There was some spillage. I didn't puke, and I didn't drop it, so we got through it. But it was a good moment. Guys were excited.
That's that, in today's game, the fact that it wasn't a Monster energy drink or something that you kept getting is awesome.
It's true. We got an old school team, Ian.
That's great. That's good to hear. I love that.
Yeah, they didn't get someone to run out to Whole Foods for you to get something that wouldn't upset your stomach. That's awesome. Talking about Jamie Benn, we watch you guys as much as we can. And you know how it is. It's great when you're on the Western time zone. You can catch all the guys that start before all these games out here. But talk about Jamie Benn's 1000th game last night. Pretty special. And the year he's having, you got him with the youngster Wyatt Johnson there, 19-year-old. Just talk about Jamie Benn and like 1,000 games in the same uniform. It's pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy. Longest tenured captain in the history of the Dallas Stars now, ahead of Derian Hatcher, which probably gives you some perspective because it felt like Derian Hatcher was a Dallas Star forever. So yeah, special guy. I mean, he's a throwback. He could have played 30 years ago, 40 years ago and jumped right into a game, and he plays the game the right way. He's a man's man. He stands up for his teammates. He fights, he hits, he scores, and then he goes and has fun away from the rink after the game, the way that hockey players should, and enjoys the fruits of the game. So I've really enjoyed coaching him. Great leadership, and that's part of what we do too. It's such a tough business, and the grind and the pressure and the travel. You really have to have a group you enjoy being around. And I know Ian met some of our guys in San Jose, but we had a group like that in San Jose, led by Joe Thornton and Brent Burns and Joe Pavelski, who's with me here. These guys enjoy the game, and when they're enjoying it, they're having fun every day and working hard. It makes our life easy as coaches, and we can enjoy it.
That's awesome. I love that you're coaching. But we should let you get going. I know we said we keep you for half an hour, and we kept you for 35. So we should let you go because you probably have to get ready to shotgun another beer someplace.
Well, we'll do this again sometime.
We'd love to have you on anytime, right after, whenever you drink from something else. Anyways,
for sure, absolutely.
It's fun when you guys come out to the shows. You guys are always good laughs, and I'm able to tease you from stage. So it's always good to see you. So hopefully we'll see you back in Dallas or someplace soon. When you're in Vegas and you need a flight, or if you need a flight on Alaska, check out Jeff Sharples. And punch Spotter in the dick for me.
Well, Ian, you've got 2 of your biggest fans here, me and Spotter. So we love your shows, and keep going. And Jeff, I look forward to catching up with you in Vegas when we cross paths.
Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ride shotgun Banksy next time, because after the last game, we were down below with Banksy, and I go, "What are you doing?" He's going, "I'm going to see Pete." And we were with Randy, but we had to get rolling. But yeah, maybe next time we'll come down and say hi. And if you guys are around in the summer, we'll go back up to where you guys used to own everything up there and play some golf on the west side of town. That's
there's your next guest, Banksy. Put a couple hours aside and listen to some of those stories.
I gotta listen to enough of them at every game. I don't know if I could do it on the podcast.
We almost seen him kill some guy at one game. Remember that one game? He almost tore some guy's head off. It was pretty. Oh my goodness.
Right on. Thanks, Pete.
Really
appreciate
fellas.
it.
Have a good day.
We'll see you later.
Thanks to Pete Deboer for dropping by, having a little conversation. And he took us down. We're chatting about the All-Star game beforehand. And he's, I love it. So
I think it's amazing, the people that he's been involved with that helped him through his career. And I know
story, right?
We talk about Vancouver ad nauseum, but Jimmy Rutherford he's had a huge impact on the game. And I know right now, maybe not as big an impact in Vancouver as they'd like, but guys like Paul Maurice, guys like Pete Deboer, and all these other guys, plus he's got his Stanley Cups, just goes to show you how intertwined everybody is in the game.
Well, the one thing that stuck out to me is who you surround yourself with. He was lucky to be surrounded by those people, but then he kept those people in his life. So if you're listening to this and you're wondering, you're like, you want to learn anything from it, surround yourself with greatness. Be great. Don't fly with the eagles, right? What do they say? Fly with the eagles. Don't soar with the turtles.
Turkeys, but you know what?
Okay, whatever it is.
You know what? That's okay. You only make your living speaking, so I can understand that. But here's yeah, that was awesome. Felt good. I'm not gonna lie, but I just see the look.
Before you go any further, have you seen the video? They use this voiceover now on everything. It's and if you look outside and on the left side,
hey, usually like that's what happens is you're talking about the flight when they talk to you from the flight deck. The guys or the gals are usually talking like with it like way out in front of them, or they just put it down on their leg and keep speaking. That's why it's all mumbled. They only make $50 to $100 million airplanes. There's no way they could put a good PA in them.
No. They got Radio Shack speakers in every one of them.
They got the blue light specials from Kmart.
That's where they make up their money. Look, we're losing money on a lot of things, and we're getting them back on the speakers.
Yeah, you know what? They didn't upgrade the speakers. We're not throwing them in. Isn't it like with cars and that? Like you used to have the Armstrong windows. Now you get electric windows. You get AC.
Right.
You get all this other stuff. And the airplanes are like, no, you're only spending $75 million on this one. We're not giving it to you.
Nope. Good luck.
You want the Sony speakers? It's going to cost you another $5 million. But I think just finishing up on Pete, you can see the look in his eye and the excitement. He's just relaxed and having a great time. Jimmy Nill's done a great job putting that organization together in Dallas. You get a chance to watch them. They've got everything, and a couple of things that might not stick out because one of them is they have $10 million in cap space if they want to go add somebody. Another thing we didn't get a chance to talk about, and maybe when Spotter and Pete are listening to this, they can answer it, but Miro Heiskanen, number 4, their young defenseman, he's 23, his 5th year in the league. Cale Makar, rightly so, gets all the press. This Cale Makar's all world, but Miro Heiskanen is right there, and he drives a lot of he does a lot of driving of the bus quietly in Dallas, and so they've got a great young goalie, they've got great young D, and they've got some veterans up front that are helping their young guys get their feet underneath them. Dallas is back.
Dallas is definitely back. Yeah. And Vancouver's still sucking. Anyways, that was it. Yeah. Let's finish it up. I have a thing. So, we'll wrap up the show. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to Pete Deboer. Thanks to Super Deeker. Also, make sure you check out headygear.com. Check out the backpacks. Put yourself a little, you can design it to your own way. Make it your own tribe. Put it on your back and let people know all about you. Headygear.com backpacks.
Fly your colors.
Fly your flag. Yep.
Fly your colors.
Any shout outs this week, Jeff?
Yeah, I do have one. I thought you were going to just go to speed talk again and end it. Okay, Brian and Tammy got married this weekend. Big shout out to them.
Who are Brian and Tammy? Tell us who they are.
Well, Brian and Tammy, the Nakaguaras were a family that I met when I first came to town. And Kelly and Tammy, her sister, older sister, were like 6 and 8, or maybe it was 8 and 10. Anyways, and how we got to know them is their dad was in real estate and he rented Busky a house. Oh. So Busky said to the Nakaguara family who came from Hawaii, said, hey, listen, you guys want to come down to a Thunder game? And sure enough, they're like, yeah. And the girls are still huge fans. Kelly's a little busier because she's got the little guy, Riley, named after Riley Smith. So she's chasing him around, can't get out to as many games. But Tammy, her younger sister, and Brian her new husband, are season ticket holders with the Knights. So I see them at the games we go to. So we got invited to Brian and Tammy's wedding this weekend, and they had it at the GVR, the Green Valley Ranch, and it was unbelievable. Outside, beautiful setup out by the pool. So big shout out to them, and just a great family. So that's my shout out this week. We had a great time at your wedding, and you know what? Onward and upward from here. And of course, they're huge Golden Knights fans. So here's hoping that they get their Tammy's walking around, got a little cold with her Golden Knights jean jacket on over her wedding dress. So here's hoping the Knights give them all of us locally or something to cheer about in the second half of the season. But big shout out to Brian and Tammy. Congrats.
Nice. I like it. I have no shout outs this week. I have no. I'm gonna give to Brian Almy, who I said we're doing this today. We're recording this morning, and it's coming out tonight. He helps us put this all together. He is our producer, so I'll give it to Brian Almy, who is a big, huge Montreal Canadiens fan. So he's hurting as bad as I am as a Vancouver Canucks fan. Big shout out to Trent, who I'm going to go see for a week in Edmonton in March. So a big shout out for him. And he is suffering in Edmonton. While everybody thinks they're starting the Stanley Cup parade there, he is suffering as a Vancouver Canucks fan. And who else? Big shout out to Jim Rutherford. I got nothing.
Love to all.
Love to all.